Hey guys, welcome to one more round. Really excited to have these two absolute front runners in the world of business. They're the faces of Brandface. We have Tonya Eberhart and Michael Carr joining us on today's episode of One More Round. How are you both?
Great, Mark. Thanks for having us today. We're fantastic.
Yeah, really excited to obviously get to know you guys during this 30-minute show. And I always think it's really important that people connect with the people behind the brand. I know this is something that both of you obviously preach, and believe in, and we've talked before about when we associate Apple, we always think of Steve Jobs. When we think of Tesla, we think of Elon Musk. So when we think of the Brandface guys, we want to be thinking of Tonya Eberhart and Michael Carr. But who are you guys?
Well, I'll start that. I grew up in a small town in North Georgia and ended up selling vacuum cleaners door to door to pay my way through college. And then I stumbled upon a position at a radio station in the sales department while selling vacuum cleaners. And it was there, it was really in the combination of the two. Selling vacuum cleaners, you really had to kind of tell your story when you went to a door, right? It couldn't just be, I'm here to sell a vacuum. You were buying a vacuum from someone. So that's kind of where it all started. And then when I got into radio, I actually saw a lot of these business owners that would walk into networking functions and local business, things like that. And they would be almost like rock stars. And I thought, how is that possible? And who are these people? And it was really those people that were the faces of their brand. Their voice was in their radio commercials. They were in their own TV commercials and print ads and things like that. And of course, back then there was no internet. So that's kind of where, where I come from and how, that evolved into the world of Brandface today. And I'll let Michael share his story.
I started off in the early 90s as a circuit auctioneer. It was always my dream, and I still do that even today. And then the guy that trained me got me into real estate. And fast forward to about 2000, I opened up a brokerage. And in 2006, I partnered with a company out of Irvine, California, and we got the Bear Stearns residential portfolio when they went under. And we thought that we would sell about 75 or 80,000 properties. We ended up offering 175,000, about 8 years worth of work. Of course, that was a late unpleasantness, but in doing so, I knew I was working myself out of a job. I got licensed in as many as 30 states, 27 to be exact, 27 states as auctioneer and a broker. Had an office in Irvine, California, an office in Seattle, Washington, and an office in Atlanta. But I knew that I needed to restore my brokerage, and that's how I met Tonya. A funny story for a different episode. And she came into our program with the Brandface program and just transformed it practically overnight. And we started putting the principles in play, and we had such growth and such success with it. Then I was fortunate enough that she asked me to co-write the second book in the series, which was Brandface for Real Estate Professionals, and then later on to become a full partner in the company. So I've been very fortunate, and the most of all to meet Tonya, my partner, of course, and we still use those Brandface principles today.
Lovely. I think it's always interesting when sometimes what we're currently doing has absolutely nothing to do with what we're going to do in the future. I just love the fact, Tonya, you went from selling, vacuum cleaners to then, branching out into radio. Like, what an interesting transition that must have been for you.
Well, at times it really sucked, Mark. It's unintended there. And as part of that life and that, transition, it was a big transition. And I remember getting the phone call from the gentleman that I sold a vacuum cleaner and shampooer to just couple of weeks before. He called me at home and he said, Tonya, this is Homer. You may not remember me. My wife and I bought a vacuum cleaner and shampooer from you a couple of weeks ago. And the first thing I thought was, awesome, this is a referral. This is great. And he said, I'm an engineer at a radio station and we have a position in sales open and I think you'd be great for it. And I said, Homer, I don't have time for that. I'm going to school. I'm trying to get through school full time. And what an idiot, But I actually took the job and started in radio 2 years before I graduated from college, and they let me work around my classes. So it was meant to be, no matter how you look at it, right?
You were clearly Homer's Maggie.
Yes, that's true.
What is one word that you would associate with yourselves and with Brandface?
Well, Michael, I'll let you go first on that one. How's that?
Yes. It's easy for me. Consistency. It's the most important thing that any of us can do. And Brandface sort of does that for you. We just had an interview last Friday with one of our clients in Fresno, California, and we were discussing this very point. The consistency is so important to any business, no matter what you do. It's not just perseverance, and it's definitely not instant success, although those things are great and necessary. You've got to be consistent, and you've got to practice the consistency without seeing the immediate benefit of the results. And that's the key to any success. And Brandface lays that out in a linear step for you to be able to help you establish yourself and then grow. So I would say my one word's consistency for sure.
Very important. And what about for you, Tonya?
I'm going to break your rule, Mark. I'm going to give you 2 words. That's right. I'm the rebel here. So the 2 words, that just kept going through my mind as I was writing that very first Brandface book and kind of putting the foundation of the company together with Michael very much by my side throughout that whole time. The 2 words were authenticity and confidence. And authenticity means everybody needs to be their own authentic self when doing their brand. You can, we don't create cartoon brands, as we say. We're very true to the individual, looking at what helps them stand out and what's also meaningful to their ideal customer, because that's the combination that's going to work. And then the confidence level is just something that we can't say enough about. A great brand doesn't just change the way others see you, it changes the way you see yourself. And we see that time and again.
Love that. When I think of my own productivity, and especially in terms of energy, one of the things that I do is I get clients to actually chart their energy over a period of 3 days and look for the dips and the troughs, and basically attach actionable steps in line with their peaks of energy and making sure they do more admin things when their energy is lower. What would be the sweet spot for you during the day? When is it that you really come into your own?
For me, it's early morning. I've always been an early bird. People usually hate me for it because I'm up at the crack of dawn usually, but I get a lot done early in the day, and that's really when I take on those hardest tasks. What's the old saying? Well, Michael, this came from your grandfather, actually. The most important thing is to make the most important thing the most important thing. I try to do that in the morning.
Love that. Now, Michael, you've got to come up with a different one.
Sorry.
No, it's quite all right. It's actually the same for me. I'm an early riser also. I like to get up in the mornings before business starts so I can do the bulk of the business that I need to do undistracted, because I found in ups and downs in business, I have found that the truly successful people, they don't sacrifice the important for the immediate. And it was a mistake that I made a lot of times, and sometimes we can't help that. We're in a certain position where we have to be reactionary to really just, sticking fingers in the dikes to make sure that all the leaks are covered for right now till we can get some infrastructure going, especially in times of huge growth when you get a lot of business right off the bat and you're trying to figure out how to make that work. And so I like to get started early in the morning so I can get my everything situated as best as possible. And that way, when things start coming in that day that are uncontrollable, then I can place them where they belong inside that day without interrupting the important, which is scripted and needs to be known. Everybody should know what they're going to do tomorrow before they go to bed tonight, and then hold to that as best as possible.
Now, is it true that you believe every day is Saturday?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. Every day for me is Saturday. I intend on keeping it that way. We can't control, the bad things that happen to us. Life is life, and life is struggle, and that's okay. To quote Tony Robbins, he said, part of the problem with people and their problems is thinking that they shouldn't have problems. Well, we can't avoid it. It doesn't matter. Every day we get up, we're going to be wrought with some kind of strife, but you got to put that in the same box that you would anything else. Rudyard Kipling says, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters the same. And I think that that's the key. And once you can compartmentalize that, then you can get up every day knowing today's Saturday. I'm going to do what I love all day today, and I'm going to compartmentalize those things I can't control. I'm going to control those things that I can, and then I'm going to handle those problems that I'm handed as I can and as makes sense. And to me, that's all it takes to make every day Saturday.
Love that, and it fits right into that consistency that you talked about, from the get-go. So really cool.
Are you relevant? I think it's a really important question we need to ask ourselves, because as soon as we lose our relevance, we lose our position in the market, we lose our influence. We end up like aborters who didn't pivot, who didn't evolve. For me, being relevant is so key, to your own business for its own sustainability and its own growth. There's a saying that goes, if you steal the limelight, you steal the lion's share, and we must continue to innovate and be relevant to our key market and key audience.
Guys, when you think of One More Round, the reason I called this show One More Round was to really be able to draw out personal stories of how people overcome difficulty and challenge. But when you hear One More Round, what does it cultivate? What springs to mind for you both?
For me, it's about never giving up. And, a few years ago when actually at the birth of this business, it was just a few short years ago. And I remember being in a very tough position in my own life personally. And I also remember thinking, this is not it for me. This is only the beginning for me. But it's something I had to practice every day. It wasn't just a belief. It was, you have to put the action behind the belief. So when I got to a point in the day, which we inevitably have when we're going through tough times, where we think, I can't do this anymore, or you're questioning yourself or doubting yourself, I would literally make myself go into my closet, find my running shoes, put them on, and go for a long walk and just clear my head. And that seemed to be my reset button, and I think everybody needs to find that reset button, because there is a reset button. It's just like, today is the first day of the rest of your life. We really all need to live like that. And that to me is what One More Round means. It means it's never too late.
So guys, can you share an example of when you went one more round, when life hit you in the chops, knocked you on the floor, and you got back up? What made you get back up, and what were some of the difficulties during that period in your life?
Well, I'll start that one and say, which time? There's been more than once. but I think probably my toughest, most recent time was, I had just come out of a 20-year marriage and a divorce situation several years back, and it was very difficult. I was left that marriage, and I also left a couple of businesses behind that I had helped to build, and I walked out the door with a book in my hand and pretty much nothing else. And I had put my blood, sweat, and tears into that book, and that book actually became Brandface business today. And that'll knock you down. Anybody who's been through that, and there have been many, unfortunately, that have, that can take you out. And I do remember each day saying to myself that, it is something I had to practice, and I had to tell myself, this is not even close to over. This is only the beginning of the next chapter, and the next chapter will be far greater than any chapter before. And you do have to, it is mind over matter. A lot of times you do have to tell yourself that. And as a result, I became a big believer in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich book, the law of attraction, you know, a lot of those principles that maybe years before I might have scoffed at and thought were pure nonsense. Now I'm a big believer, and I truly do believe that what you believe you can achieve, as Napoleon himself would say.
Love that. What about for you, Michael? Share a story with us of how you went one more round.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest one was about a year after I met Tonya and we started working together on the Brandface principles for the brokerage. At that time, we were in construction, we were in arm's length transaction brokerages, we were in wholesale brokerage of residential properties, and very active. We had been active in well over 65,000 transactions at the time, residential transactions. And it looked like everything was just pie in the sky. I mean, we were headed to the top. There was no doubt about it. And then in 2014, about June of 2014, I lost 4 of my 5 biggest clients. And then in July of 2014, I lost the 5th. And so there we sat with sort of a decimated company that with a rug jerked out from under it. And but we had this brokerage that we had already we had a year into it, and we were working the Brandface principles hard. And so I had to revamp everything. And I went through a period there, about 6 months. It was nearly 7 days a week. To what Tonya said, I at one point was so frustrated that I couldn't change anything but myself. So I remember on a Friday, I just pulled the plug for myself. I said, I'm taking off today for the rest of the day, and I'm going to go do something that I can control. And I had an old car that I had been tinkering with. I couldn't get running, so I went and started working on it and refused to give up until I got it running. I got it running that evening, and I counted that a tiny success. And I got up the next day and started building upon those successes. And then the rest is sort of history. Our company, the brokerage company, has grown now exponentially. I think in 2013, our first GCI for that division was about 6,000 in commissions, and closed somewhere in the tune of 5 million in the past 90 days. So it came down to what we talked about earlier. It came down to focus. And it came down to the consistency that we were practicing when we couldn't see the immediate benefit of the results. And in time, that paid off. And that was definitely one more round. And anybody that knew me, including Tonya at the time, I just kept telling them, I can't stop. There's just no quit to this. I'm driven on. There's something at the end of this path that is going to be fantastic for everybody involved. And I think that it proves that every day. But I'm an eternal optimist, which I think all 3 of us are on this program here. I know Tonya is, and I can tell you are too. And that is the key, the mental stability of constantly knowing that tomorrow is better is a driving force, or should be a driving force.
Obviously, we've already expressed the fact that, you know, life's full of challenges, and, you know, it's been articulated right the way through the whole interview so far. The fact that there is difficulty, there is challenge, there is obstacle. What are some of the things that you do both practically and maybe even, you know, mentally in order to be able to navigate through those challenges? Is there some like real specific practical things that you individually do to be able to pivot and work your way through some of those challenges? Because it's always easy, isn't it, to be able to talk about what you do in a challenge when you're not in a challenge. But when you're in a challenge, sometimes it's really hard to be able to navigate through some of that.
Well, for me, I don't think you can do it alone. So, you know, Michael has been so instrumental in helping me build this business that we are now in together, you know, and being on the phone with him 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. I mean, it's the wonder we can still, you know, we still even halfway like each other. We've been on the phone together so much, but we get along famously. But having somebody to talk to and work things through that, you know, thinks the way that you do and can, you know, motivate you to take that next step, very often you're both not down at the same time, so you're constantly lifting each other up. I think that helps, but I'd like to say I often go back to a quote, and it plays through my mind over and over again, from one of my favorite, you know, motivational people, and that would be Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so when you're really not sure what to do, you really need to sometimes frame your mind around the way you're looking at something, because sometimes it's more about the way you're looking at something and what you need to change about yourself than it is the circumstances that are affecting you.
Love that. Very good.
Yeah,
Anything to add, Michael?
I would second all of that. Absolutely. I would say that one of the greatest lessons that I learned, and it took me a while. I was probably in my 30s, late 30s even, when I realized it. But you know, stress. You got to manage your stress, and everybody has it. It's just sort of unavoidable. But what I figured out was that the only time we have stress is when we want things to be different than they are. And a lot of times, more times than not, that stress is self-induced. And so you have to stop for a second and realize and analyze yourself. Are you putting that stress upon yourself, or are there outside forces that are doing that? And then the first thing you do after you break that down is you eliminate any of the things you can't control. Because if you're wasting your time thinking about those things or dealing with those things, that's exactly what you're doing, is you're wasting your time. And you need to be able to grab a hold of the things that you can control and eat the elephant one bite at a time. So along with what Tonya said, one of the ways that I keep every day Saturday too is I manage that stress level very good. And I've gotten good over time at delineating which stress I have control over and which I need to just absolutely ignore.
Awesome. Now, let's talk a little bit about Brandface. First of all, I'm always fascinated by the name of companies, you know, and I always think they tell a story. So maybe share kind of where Brandface derived from and what the nucleus of Brandface really is.
Okay. Brandface is about being the face of your business and a star in your industry. That's one of our taglines. But the mantra the company is built upon is people don't do business with a logo, they do business with a person. And I learned that there was no better way to learn that than trying to sell vacuum cleaners door to door as a college kid, right? So you learn that there's that human connection behind everything, and people are anxious to know that. I mean, we live in a very voyeuristic world, and look at reality, you know, TV and even YouTube, you know, the success of YouTube. And so people are interested in what we as human beings are doing. And when we're the face of a company, they want to know the story behind the face. And so that really is where it all came together, as being the face of your brand. And we were, you know, very fortunate that Brandface, you know, wasn't already taken, and now we've trademarked it and built a company on it.
Awesome. And Michael, the name, where did that kind of come from? Was it like you and Tonya had a bit of a brainstorming, you know, time, or did it just naturally, you know, punch you in the face?
No, that's Tonya's creation, 100%. By the time I had hired Tonya to come into our organization and help us to start it with a marketing plan and a direction, she had that baby already invented and had already written the first book. And I didn't know that when we first started working together. She had kept that under wraps, but our company was working through those Brandface principles that we still use today. So that was, I have to say, that's totally her baby. But how it applied to me was she recognized that I was a founder of a company and also the spearhead, as I should be, and then therefore the face of that brand. And so she, in that concept, you named a few of them to begin with, but like one of the ones that I love the most is Papa John's Pizza. And, you know, Papa John's had this, that guy ain't changed in 30 years, and he's still got the same tagline: better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John. But he's always on his commercials, you know, and he's risen from making pizzas to being in Super Bowl commercials. And I think that he's a perfect example of what she discovered about people. How that applies in our everyday business is very important, because I can't touch every client, but I try my best to touch every client that I can. They can at least recognize my face. And then through the content of my website and our advertisements and our literature and our blog posts, and our social media, they begin to develop an idea of who I am, authenticity, the authenticity of the honesty of what we portray every day. And it makes it easier for them to do business, even with my agents and other associates that are associated with the company.
Awesome. Now, I know you guys give out a lot of content and you look to educate, you look to inspire. I'm mindful and aware of Fearless Fridays. Tell us a little bit about that and some of the things that you creatively do.
Okay. Michael and I were looking for a way to really practice what we preach. And so we were thinking, what can we do to get people to know more about us, to see more about, the story behind us. And so we're very motivational people at heart. We really like to see people do well. It's really what we're all about. And so we thought, if we did a series of live webinars every Friday and we just called them Fearless Friday, we can teach, our clients to take the fear out of putting themselves out there, because there's a lot of fear about it. It's almost like public speaking. It's like, you want me to put my face on what? A billboard? You want my voice to be in a radio commercial? I don't think so. So there's a lot behind that, and that's why we chose to do that.
Love it. And there's other webinars that you do as well, isn't there, to be able to educate?
Yep, Michael, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the workshop for the Brandface program for real estate professionals. And in the third book in the series is entrepreneurs, of course. So it would apply to anybody with a business in which that they want to be the face of their brand. And so on Wednesday nights, and we're moving it to Wednesday afternoons now, Eastern Standard Time, but we have a workshop for those people that are a part of the program. And in that workshop, that's where Tonya and I teach things that we have learned, new things that are coming about, new platforms to deal with for real estate professionals, and places to get yourself out. And there is a myriad, in fact, an entire library of videos and teachings that we have taught over the years about how to be discovered, how to display your brand, and how to develop that brand and get your message across to all of your ideal customers.
Excellent. So guys, as we wrap up the show, is there any other thoughts that you want to share? Anything that you kind of want to express before we find out how do people better interact with you?
Sure. If it's a business owner or entrepreneur, visit brandfacestar.com. Real estate professionals, go to brandfacerealestate.com. Pretty much that simple, one way or the other. But hey, I do have a question for you, Mark.
Okay.
Where did One More Round come from?
I think, when it comes to whether it's a book that I write or a keynote that I'm giving or, a TV show concept that I'm coming up with, it has to be something that really captures the imagination, but also articulates really, I guess, the essence of what I want to really communicate with people. But it was actually in a conversation with somebody else called Lindsay Adamson, and she was talking to me about some challenges in her life and how the whole kind of one more round kind of philosophy for her was really something that served her. And it was that kind of conversation that really made me stick in my mind, where I thought, actually, when I finally branch out and create a TV show, I think that really kind of hits the nail on the head and captures the imagination that's really relatable to all of us, in terms of we all go through challenge, we all go through difficulty, we all go through setback. But you know what? We're not to be a victim. We're to use our past to give us power to the future. We're to educate and inspire. And if I can draw the essence of other people's pain, their struggle, their travailing, but equally how they've come out of that, how they've had success, how they've endured, how they've led, how they've guided people, I think for me, that's something that everybody can really resonate with. It doesn't really matter whether you're entrepreneurial or not. It's having that ability to be able to push through, to take the learnings, to wipe, your head, and keep going. And it's so true that you know, it's not over till it's over. And, you know, we've all got to keep swinging, you know, until we really connect and make an impression on this world, because we all know we only get one shot at this life. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for answering that. That's a great explanation. You know, Henry David Thoreau said, never look back unless you're planning to go that way. And that kind of sums up what you just said to me. You be a victim of your past. You got to take control of your future. Absolutely.
Now, I've absolutely loved having you both on today's episode of One More Round. You guys are the face of Brandface, and I look forward to seeing you on your journey. I'm looking forward to just getting the feedback from today's show. Make sure you connect with both of these guys. They're both really approachable, really knowledgeable, and would love to have a conversation with you. Reach out to them via their social media and websites. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
Absolutely.